Why is it that sometimes, with just a single word or a fleeting glance, we can sense the very soul of a person? Have you ever had that experience? You meet someone for the first time, and before they've even told you their story, something in their presence already speaks louder than words. Maybe it's the softness in their voice, the calm rhythm of their sentences, or the warmth hidden in their smile. Or, on the other hand, maybe it's the sharp edge in their tone, the restlessness in their gaze, or the heaviness that lingers in the air around them. Words and expressions are not just tools of communication. They are windows. They are mirrors. They are the unspoken autobiography of the heart. The way we speak, and even the way our face naturally settles when no one is watching, often tells more about us than the stories we choose to share. Think about it. Have you ever been comforted by a single sentence from someone you love? Something so simple, like "it's going to be okay." Those words may not have solved your problem, but they gave you strength. Now, contrast that with the times when someone's careless remark stayed with you for years, a wound invisible to the eye, but unforgettable in the heart. Words are not just sounds, they are seeds. They either plant peace, or they plant pain. And the face? It, too, carries its own language. A person who often dwells in compassion tends to show it in their features. The corners of their mouth soften into ease. Their eyes reflect kindness. Their skin, even if lined with age, shines with a quiet dignity. Meanwhile, someone who has lived too long in anger, bitterness, or fear often shows it as well. Furrowed brows, tense jaws, eyes that rarely find rest. It's as if the soul paints itself upon the canvas of the face, stroke by stroke, year after year. This isn't superstition. It's not about fortune-telling or reading faces like a mystical map. It's about presence. It's about how the inner world eventually leaks into the outer world, whether we want it to or not. The Buddha once taught, the mind is the forerunner of all things. What we cultivate inside, love or hatred, peace or turmoil, shapes not only our words, but the very aura we carry into every room we enter. Pause for a moment and reflect. If someone who never met you before could only hear one sentence from you today, or catch one glimpse of your expression, what would they sense? Would they feel safe, understood, inspired? Or would they feel tension, distance, or even fear? In this video, we'll journey together into the subtle but powerful ways in which our speech and our facial expressions reveal the deeper landscapes of our mind. We'll explore why kind speech is considered by Buddhist wisdom to be one of the highest forms of generosity. We'll see how the practice of mindfulness can transform not only what we say, but how our face naturally shines. And most importantly, we'll reflect on how you can begin, right now, to speak and embody the kind of presence that heals rather than harms. Because in the end, every word is an imprint. Every look is a message. And together, they form the silent language through which our soul is always speaking. So I ask you again, why is it that sometimes just a single word or a single glance can reveal the heart of a person? Stay with me, because what we discover in this reflection may forever change the way you choose to speak, to look, and to live. The mirror of the mind. Have you ever noticed how a single word can change everything? Sometimes, it feels as though words carry a weight far heavier than their sound. A soft, gentle phrase, something as simple as "I'm here for you," can ease a restless heart, lift a burden, or even change the course of a day. Yet a harsh remark, perhaps spoken in anger or carelessness, can cut deeper than a blade, leaving wounds that last for years. We often underestimate the power of speech because words seem so small, so fleeting. They vanish in the air the moment they're spoken. But do they? In truth, words linger. They echo in memory, they shape perception, and sometimes, they even define the stories people tell themselves about who they are. Think back to your own life. Do you remember a time when someone said something kind to you, something that stayed with you for years? Maybe a teacher once told you, "You have a gift." Or a parent whispered, "I believe in you." Those words planted seeds that still grow inside you today. Now contrast that with the memories of words that wounded. Perhaps you were told, "You'll never be enough," or "Why can't you be like someone else?" Those words, too, take root. And unlike kind words, they grow like weeds, entangling the heart with doubt, anger, or shame. This is why in Buddhism, speech is not treated lightly. The Buddha taught about right speech as one of the eightfold path practices, the path to liberation. He also spoke of karmic speech, or verbal karma, reminding us that every word is an action, and every action has consequences. Words are not harmless. They are the direct reflection of the mind that produced them. In other words, when we speak, we reveal ourselves. The tone, the choice of words, the intention behind them, they all mirror the state of our consciousness. If our mind is clouded with anger, it shows in sharp, cutting remarks. If our heart is open and kind, it reveals itself in speech that comforts and uplifts. I once met an elderly monk who told me something I'll never forget. He said, "If you want to know the quality of your mind, listen to the words that leave your mouth." At first, I didn't fully understand, but as I reflected, I realized how true it was. My own speech, in moments of stress, often carried impatience. When I was fearful, my words became defensive. When I was at peace, my words naturally softened. It was like holding a mirror to my own heart. And isn't it interesting how we can sense sincerity immediately? When someone says, "I love you," but doesn't mean it, we feel the hollowness. When someone apologizes without true regret, the words fall flat. But when kindness is genuine, even a simple thank you can bring tears to our eyes. The truth of the heart cannot be disguised by clever language. This is why the Buddha often emphasized the practice of mindful speech. To pause before we speak. To ask, is it true? Is it kind? Is it necessary? Imagine how many arguments, how many broken relationships, how much unnecessary suffering could be avoided if we practice this. Now, I want you to consider something. What is the echo of your own words in the lives of those around you? Do people leave your presence feeling heavier or lighter? Do your words heal, or do they harm? We live in a world where words are abundant. Social media, texts, conversations, news cycles, our days are flooded with them. And yet, in this ocean of speech, how rare it is to find words that truly nourish the heart. Words that feel like clean water. Words that refresh and restore. Perhaps this is the challenge of our time, to reclaim speech as an art of healing rather than a weapon of harm. To use words not just as a means of expressing ourselves, but as a conscious offering to others. There's a story from the Buddhist tradition about a man who was insulted. He went to the Buddha, angry and hurt, asking what he should do. The Buddha replied with a metaphor. If someone offers you a gift and you do not accept it, to whom does the gift belong? The man answered, to the one who offered it. And the Buddha said, so too with anger and harsh words. If you do not accept them, they remain with the one who spoke them. What wisdom there is in that! It reminds us not only that we don't need to receive harmful words, but also that when we ourselves speak harshly, we are the ones left holding that poison. Speech, in truth, affects both the listener and the speaker. Now, let's return to your own experience. Picture someone you care about. What if you had only one more chance to speak with them? What words would you choose? Would you spend them on criticism, or would you choose gratitude, encouragement, love? And more importantly, why wait until the last chance? Why not speak that way now? This isn't about being unrealistically positive, or never expressing frustration. It's about awareness. It's about recognizing that every word carries energy. Energy that can either deepen wounds, or open doors. Energy that can either harden hearts, or soften them. And here's something personal. There was a time in my own life when I didn't realize the power of my words. I thought sarcasm was harmless. I thought teasing was just playful. But later, a friend confessed that my words had hurt them, that they still remembered things I had said in passing. It was a painful realization. Words I had forgotten had become scars for someone else. From that moment, I promised myself I would be more careful, more mindful, more kind. Because once spoken, words cannot be taken back. The truth is, words are like arrows. Once released, they fly. They can pierce, or they can protect. The choice is ours. So the next time you open your mouth to speak, pause. Ask yourself, what is my intention? Am I about to plant a seed of peace, or a seed of suffering? Because in the end, every word is a mirror of the mind. And if we wish to live with clarity, compassion, and wisdom, we must learn to let our words shine with the best of who we are. The face, a reflection from within. Have you ever met someone whose face wasn't considered beautiful by society's standards, yet somehow you couldn't help but feel drawn to them? Maybe their features were ordinary, maybe even plain, but when they smiled, you felt warmth. When they looked at you, there was kindness in their eyes. And in that moment, their face seemed more radiant than any model on a magazine cover. On the other hand, you might have met someone considered very attractive, Sharp features, perfect skin, all the qualities we usually praise, but somehow their expression felt cold, distant, maybe even unkind. And despite their outer beauty, you found it difficult to stay near them. Why does this happen? Why is it that the same human face can either invite us in or push us away? There is a teaching in Buddhism that says, form follows mind. Or in the original words, Tianji tui tam sin. It means that our appearance, especially the expression on our face, is not just the result of genetics or luck, but a reflection of our inner state of being. Think about it. A person who spends years consumed by anger often develops a hardened, tense expression. The lines on their forehead deepen, the jaw tightens, the eyes narrow. Contrast that with someone who has cultivated kindness and patience, their face often feels open, soft, approachable, even if wrinkles or age are present. The truth is, our inner world paints itself across our features. The face is like a canvas, and our emotions, thoughts, and habits are the brushstrokes. I remember meeting a woman at a meditation retreat. She was elderly, her hair completely grey, her skin marked with deep wrinkles. If you judged by appearance alone, society might have said her beauty had faded. But the moment she smiled, it was as if the entire room lit up. People gravitated toward her, not because of her looks, but because of the serenity and joy that radiated through her expression. Her face was living proof of the saying, beauty comes from within. Isn't it fascinating how children can sense this, too? Kids are often drawn not to the most beautiful face, but to the most gentle one. A stranger with a kind expression can earn a child's trust faster than someone who looks flawless but carries tension in their features. This makes me wonder, if our face truly reflects our inner life, then what story is our own face telling the world right now? You see, we live in a culture obsessed with altering appearance. Creams, surgeries, filters, all trying to reshape the surface. But what if the deeper transformation, the one that truly changes how others perceive us, comes from within? When we cultivate compassion, forgiveness, and peace, those qualities don't stay hidden in the mind. They shine through our eyes, they soften our smile, they radiate in our presence. The Buddha himself was often described as having a serene, luminous face, not because of makeup or symmetry, but because his inner freedom and boundless compassion naturally expressed themselves outwardly. His face reflected a mind free of hatred and fear. There's also science supporting this idea. Psychologists have found that chronic emotions, like stress, anger, or joy, actually influence the muscles of the face over time. Smiling often strengthens certain muscles, making it easier to smile naturally later. Frowning does the same. Over the years, our habitual expressions quite literally shape the way we look. So again, form follows mind. Our face becomes a diary of the emotions we've practiced most. Let me share something personal. In my 20s, I was often anxious, always worried about the future. When I looked back at photos from that time, I noticed my face seemed tense, even when I was trying to smile. There was a stiffness in my eyes, like I was holding something back. Years later, after practicing mindfulness and meditation, people began telling me, "You look calmer. You look lighter." And what surprised me most was this: it wasn't just their perception. When I looked in the mirror, I saw the change too. My face hadn't become more perfect, but it felt more at peace. I think this is something we all know deep down. Beauty, as we often define it, is temporary. Youth fades, features change, but the radiance of a compassionate heart? That kind of beauty deepens with age. It writes itself into our face in ways makeup never could. So here's a question worth asking. If someone looked only at your expression, without knowing your story, what would they sense? Would they see kindness, openness, peace? Or would they sense tension, bitterness, or worry? The good news is, it's never too late to soften the story our face tells. Each time we choose forgiveness over resentment, patience over anger, gratitude over complaint, we are, in a way, reshaping our face, not through surgery or cosmetics, but through spirit. Imagine if the most radiant thing about you wasn't the shape of your nose or the color of your eyes, but the light of your heart shining through your smile. Imagine if your presence, your expression, became a kind of safe space for others. That, I believe, is the truest kind of beauty. And here's something even more remarkable. When we encounter people whose faces reflect kindness, we ourselves soften. Their presence reminds us of who we can be. It inspires us. In this way, the beauty of one heart doesn't just stay within, it awakens beauty in others. So perhaps we should worry less about how our face compares to magazine covers, and more about what our face reveals about our mind. Because in the end, the lines that matter most are not the ones on our skin, but the ones written by love, compassion, and wisdom. As the saying goes, the face is the mirror of the soul. And every day, with every choice, we are shaping what that mirror reflects. The power of kind speech. Have you ever received just a few words from someone, a genuine "I'm proud of you," or a heartfelt "I believe in you," and suddenly, your whole day felt lighter? It's almost magical, isn't it? A simple sentence, nothing more than vibrations in the air, can change how we feel inside. Words are small, but their impact is immense. One kind phrase has the power to lift a heavy heart, and one careless comment can wound someone for years. That's why ancient wisdom often reminds us, our words are not just sounds. They are seeds. Each word we speak plants something in the heart of another. I want to share a story with you. Years ago, I met a man who had been struggling with depression. He told me that one morning, while sitting at a cafe, a stranger looked at him, smiled, and simply said, "I hope you have a good day." That was it. Nothing dramatic, nothing profound. But he said those words felt like sunlight piercing through clouds. He carried them all day. Later, he realized that simple moment of kindness had given him enough strength to keep going. Isn't it astonishing? A stranger's passing words became a lifeline. Buddhism teaches about this very power of speech. In fact, one of the four means of embracing, called tinip phap, includes loving speech, or in Sanskrit, priyavakana. It is the practice of speaking in a way that nurtures, heals, and connects. The Buddha understood something we sometimes forget. Words are not neutral. They carry the energy of our heart. Think about it. When someone speaks to you with genuine care, you feel it, not just in your mind, but in your body. Your shoulders relax. Your breath deepens. You feel safe. But when someone speaks harshly, even if the words are true, your body tightens. You feel guarded. Your heart closes off. So the question becomes, what kind of energy do we want our words to carry into the world? I once read about a study in psychology showing how children who regularly receive affirmations like "you are capable," "you are loved," or "you matter" develop more resilience against stress and failure. Their self-worth grows stronger, simply because of the words spoken to them. Now, imagine the opposite. Children who constantly hear criticism, insults, or doubt. Those words can become chains they carry for a lifetime. It makes me wonder, how many of us are still haunted by a cruel sentence someone said to us years ago? Maybe it was a parent saying, "You'll never succeed." Maybe it was a partner saying, "You're not good enough." Words like that don't just vanish. They echo in our minds, sometimes louder than we realize. But here's the hopeful part. If negative words can wound deeply, then positive words can heal deeply. If speech can tear us down, then speech can also lift us up. The Buddha emphasized loving speech not just as a moral guideline, but as a spiritual practice. To speak kindly is to practice compassion in real time. It is to become aware that every word we utter has weight. Every sentence we share can either create connection or division. Let me ask you, what would change in your relationships if you chose to sprinkle more kind words into daily life? Not fake flattery, but genuine, intentional kindness. Imagine telling your partner, "I really appreciate how hard you work for us." Or telling a friend, "You inspire me." Or even saying to a stranger, "I hope your day is peaceful." These words cost nothing, yet they enrich everything. When I began practicing mindful speech, I noticed something beautiful. Not only did others feel more uplifted, but I did too. There's a quiet joy in speaking with kindness. It's like each word heals both the listener and the speaker. Of course, this doesn't mean we never speak truth or set boundaries. Loving speech doesn't mean avoiding honesty. It means delivering truth in a way that doesn't destroy. Think about the difference between saying, "You always mess up," versus, "I know you're capable. Maybe we can try a different way next time." Both address the issue, but one cuts while the other guides. And here's the secret. People listen better when words come with compassion. A harsh command may silence someone, but it rarely inspires change. Gentle yet truthful words, however, have a way of planting seeds that grow. I want you to try something with me. The next time you're about to speak, especially in a moment of frustration, pause. Ask yourself 3 questions. Is what I'm about to say true? Is it necessary? Can it be said with kindness? If the answer to all three is yes, then your words will likely become medicine rather than poison. I'll give you another example. A few months ago, a friend of mine lost his job. He was drowning in self-doubt. People kept telling him, "Don't worry, you'll find something," but it sounded shallow to him. So one day, I simply said, "I know this is hard, but I believe in your ability to rebuild. You've done it before, and you can do it again." He later told me those words gave him more comfort than anything else. Not because they solve his problem, but because they reminded him of his own strength. That's the beauty of loving speech. It doesn't always fix circumstances, but it strengthens the heart facing them. Now, let's reflect on ourselves. How do we usually speak to others and to ourselves? Because here's something important. Self-talk counts too. If we constantly tell ourselves, "I'm not good enough," or "I always fail," those words shape our reality. The Buddha reminded us, the mind creates our world, and our words are the voice of that mind. So maybe it's time to practice loving speech not only outwardly, but inwardly. To replace "I can't" with "I will try." To replace "I'm broken" with "I'm learning." Imagine how different life would feel if we became our own ally, not our own critic. In the end, words are not just sounds that vanish. They linger. They echo. They shape relationships, families, communities. And yes, they shape our future. The Buddha gave us a path to transform the world, not through force, but through compassion. And loving speech is one of the simplest, yet most powerful ways to do it. So the next time you open your mouth to speak, remember, you are holding a tool of immense power. Use it to plant seeds of peace, not thorns of suffering. Use it to build bridges, not walls. Because sometimes, the right words at the right moment can change a life. When words cause wounds. Have you ever had a sentence spoken to you that you can still hear today? Years, maybe even decades later? A phrase that cuts so deeply it lingers in your memory, not because of its wisdom, but because of its sting? Let me tell you a story. There was once a young student, bright and eager to learn. One day, in front of the entire class, his teacher snapped at him, "You're hopeless. You'll never amount to anything." For the teacher, it might have been just a moment of frustration, words tossed carelessly into the air. But for the boy, those words burned into his heart. He carried them into adulthood, into his career, into every attempt to build a life. Each time he faced failure, the echo returned, "You'll never amount to anything." That's the thing about words. Once spoken, they don't just disappear. They settle into us. They take root. And sometimes, they live there for a lifetime. The Buddha once taught that speech is not just sound leaving our mouths. It is energy, karma in motion. When words are spoken, they don't vanish into the void. They leave an imprint on the listener and also on the speaker. Think about that. Every word we send out circles back, shaping not only others' lives but our own. Let's pause for a moment and reflect. What's the harshest sentence you've ever been told? How old were you when you first heard it? And here's the deeper question. Do you realize how much it has shaped who you are today? Psychologists today would call this verbal trauma. It's the invisible scar left by harsh speech. Unlike physical wounds, it doesn't bleed where others can see, but it lives in the heart, shaping self-worth, confidence, and even our ability to love. Buddhist teaching calls this karmic imprint. When words of anger or cruelty are spoken, they don't just strike the ears. They carve themselves into the mind, forming grooves of pain that are difficult to smooth out. And here's the part we often forget. Those grooves also form in the mind of the speaker. To hurt another with words is to reinforce anger, bitterness, and pride within oneself. It's a double-edged blade, hurting both the one who hears and the one who says. I remember meeting someone who told me she could recall every insult her father ever shouted at her, word for word, even 40 years later. Yet she struggled to remember any of the times he expressed love. Isn't that telling? Our brains often cling tighter to wounds than to blessings. A harsh word can pierce deeper than a kind word can soothe, unless we are deliberate about healing. Now, let's not be quick to judge. We've all been on both sides, haven't we? We've been the wounded child, and we've also been the frustrated adult who let harsh words slip. So the question becomes, how do we live more consciously, knowing the weight our speech carries? Here's a powerful image from Buddhist tradition. Words are like arrows. Once released, they cannot be taken back. They fly forward, striking whatever lies in their path. An arrow can wound a body, but a word can wound a soul. And the wounds of the soul are often the hardest to heal. So what can we do? The first step is awareness. To recognize that every time we speak in anger, our words may live far longer than our temper. What feels like a fleeting outburst to us may become a lifelong echo for someone else. Think of the student again, haunted by his teacher's insult. Imagine how differently his life might have unfolded if, instead of being told you'll never amount to anything, he heard, "You made a mistake, but I believe you can improve." One sentence still acknowledges the problem, but it opens a door instead of slamming it shut. The second step is responsibility. We can't always control whether we've hurt someone in the past, but we can take responsibility for how we speak today. And if we've caused harm, we can also use speech as a form of healing. An apology, sincerely spoken, is medicine. It doesn't erase the wound, but it begins to soften the scar. The third step is compassion, for others and for ourselves. Because here's the truth, sometimes we become our own harshest critic. The cruelest words we hear are not from others, but from within. That inner voice saying, "You're not enough. You'll never get it right." Sound familiar? Buddhism reminds us that the mind has no fixed shape. Just as words from others can carve deep grooves in us, the words we choose to repeat to ourselves can create new paths. We can begin speaking differently to ourselves. I am learning. I am growing. I am worthy. Loving speech must begin inside if we want it to flow outward. But let's return to the wounds words can cause, because I think it's important not to shy away from their reality. Sometimes we think, oh, they're just words. But are they really just words? Wars have begun with words. Families have been torn apart by words. People have ended their own lives because of words. If words can destroy, they can also rebuild. If speech can kill hope, it can also awaken it. The question is, which will we choose? Let me ask you something. When was the last time your words gave someone strength? When was the last time you saw someone's eyes light up because of what you said? Here's a small practice that can change everything. Before you speak, pause and imagine your words leaving your mouth as seeds. Ask yourself, what will these seeds grow into? Will they grow into fear? Into shame? Or will they grow into courage and love? I remember a time when a colleague of mine made a mistake at work that cost us both a lot of stress. My first impulse was anger. The words on my tongue were sharp. How could you be so careless? But I paused. I remembered the weight of words. Instead, I said, I know this is tough, but I also know you're capable of fixing it. Let's find a solution together. You know what happened. Not only was the mistake corrected faster, but our trust grew stronger. That one choice, to hold back harsh speech, turned a potential scar into a moment of growth. This is the essence of Buddhist teaching on speech. Words don't just vanish. They echo in the heart of the listener and return to the heart of the speaker. Harsh words create cycles of pain. Kind words create cycles of healing. So, when words cause wounds, we are left with two choices: continue the cycle or transform it. We can either pass along the pain that was given to us, or we can say, it stops here. That choice, to stop, to speak differently, is one of the most powerful forms of karma we can create. Because remember, every word plants a seed, and every seed has the potential to grow into a forest. So I leave you with this reflection. What kind of forest are you planting today? A gentle face, the energy of peace. Have you ever noticed how sometimes a single smile can change your entire day? Not a forced, polite smile, but one that feels real, calm, steady, almost like it carries a quiet blessing with it. There's a story about a monk who lived in a small temple tucked away in the mountains. He didn't speak much, and he didn't need to. People said that simply being in his presence was enough to soften their hearts. Travelers who came to the temple often said the same thing. When he smiled at me, I felt lighter. It was as if the weight I had been carrying for years suddenly eased. What was it about this smile? It wasn't about perfect teeth, or charm, or charisma. It was something deeper. His smile was the reflection of his inner peace. And that peace was so real, so alive, that others could feel it just by looking at him. The Buddha once taught, when the mind is at peace, the face becomes peaceful. In other words, our inner state always finds a way to reveal itself on the outside. Think about this for a moment. Have you ever walked into a room where someone was tense, angry, or anxious, and without them saying a single word, you could already feel it? Their energy spoke louder than their voice. In the same way, when someone's heart is calm, their very presence becomes medicine. The power of presence. Modern psychology actually agrees with this. Neuroscientists talk about mirror neurons, tiny circuits in our brains that allow us to pick up the emotions of others. That's why stress spreads in an office so quickly, and why calmness in a leader can steady an entire team. The monk's smile wasn't just a physical expression. It was energy. And when we are near someone who carries that kind of energy, our own nervous system responds. Our shoulders relax. Our breath slows. We feel safe. This raises an important question. What energy do we carry into a room? What does our face reflect? When the face becomes a mirror. Our face, whether we realize it or not, is always telling a story. It's like a canvas where our inner life paints itself. If our hearts are filled with anger, our eyes harden. If we are restless, our jaw tightens. If we are fearful, our expression contracts. On the other hand, when our hearts are at ease, the opposite happens. The muscles soften, the eyes brighten, the entire face opens. People don't just see us, they feel us. I once met a woman at a retreat who told me she had spent years trying to be more beautiful. She tried diets, makeup, expensive treatments, but what finally changed her appearance most wasn't any of those things. It was when she began practicing meditation and forgiveness. She said, "When I let go of the grudges I'd been holding, people started saying, 'You look different. What did you do?' But the truth was, I didn't do anything on the outside. I just felt lighter inside." That's the secret. Peace in the heart becomes beauty in the face. Why this matters more than ever. In today's world, we are constantly bombarded with images that tell us how we should look. Social media filters, anti-aging products, endless comparisons. It's exhausting. But here's the liberating truth. The most magnetic, lasting form of beauty has nothing to do with Botox or lighting. It has everything to do with inner calm. Think about the people you love most. When you picture their faces, what comes to mind? Chances are, it's not the symmetry of their features. It's the warmth of their eyes, the kindness of their smile, the sense of being accepted when you're around them. That's the kind of beauty the monk carried. That's the kind of beauty anyone can cultivate. The path to a peaceful face. So how do we cultivate that? How do we make our presence a refuge for others? The first step is tending to our own mind. Just as you can't pour clean water from a dirty glass, you can't radiate peace if your heart is constantly in turmoil. This doesn't mean we never feel stress or anger. It means we learn to return to calm, again and again, like a home we can always enter. Meditation is one way. Simply sitting quietly, following the breath, allowing the storm inside to settle. Over time, the face reflects that inner stillness. Another way is kindness in daily life. Every time we choose patience instead of irritation, forgiveness instead of resentment, compassion instead of judgment, we are literally shaping our face. Our expressions become the sum of our choices. Have you ever seen someone whose face looked hard or closed, as if years of anger had etched lines into it? That's not just genetics, that's habit made visible. But the same is true in the opposite direction. Someone who practices compassion consistently will, over the years, carry it in their very features. A practical reflection. Here's a small practice you can try today. Next time you catch your reflection in a mirror, don't ask, "Do I look good?" Instead ask, "What energy is my face carrying right now?" Is it tension? Is it kindness? Is it fatigue? And then take 3 slow breaths. Let your face soften with each exhale. Imagine that you're smiling not just with your lips, but with your entire being. That smile, gentle, unforced, becomes a gift to yourself first, and then to everyone you meet. My own experience. I'll share something personal. There was a time in my life when I was under constant pressure, deadlines, responsibilities, endless stress. I didn't realize how much it was showing on my face until one day a friend said, half jokingly, "You always look so serious, like you're carrying the world on your shoulders." That hit me. I thought I was hiding my stress well, but in truth, I was radiating it. People around me felt it. My presence wasn't helping anyone. It was spreading tension. So I began practicing small things. Pausing before meetings to breathe. Smiling more often, not out of politeness, but out of gratitude for simply being alive. Over time, people noticed the change. They said I seemed lighter, more approachable. That's when I realized the face is not a mask, it's a mirror. When the heart changes, the face follows. The teaching in one line. The Buddhist teaching sums it up beautifully. When the mind is at peace, the face is at peace. It's simple, but it's profound. We don't need to chase after appearances. If we care for the garden of our mind, the flowers of our expression will bloom naturally. An invitation for you. So here's my invitation. This week, notice the energy you bring into your encounters. Notice how people respond when you meet them with a calm face, a gentle smile, a kind presence. You might be surprised at how deeply it touches them. Because remember, just as that monk's smile lifted weary travelers, your own face can be a refuge for someone who is carrying unseen burdens. You don't need perfect words. You don't need to solve their problems. Sometimes, all it takes is the gift of your peaceful presence. Closing thought. The world is already full of tension, full of sharp words, full of restless energy. What it needs most is more people who embody stillness, who radiate kindness without saying a word. And the beautiful thing, that possibility is within each of us. Every breath, every smile, every moment of peace we cultivate becomes part of the energy we share with the world. So, the next time you look in the mirror, don't just see your reflection. See the invitation. The invitation to let your face become a doorway to peace, for yourself and for everyone who meets you. A tense face, the consequence of a restless mind. Have you ever seen someone whose face looked permanently tense, as if every muscle was carrying the memory of anger or worry? Maybe it was in their furrowed brow, their tight jaw, or the way their eyes seemed to lose their softness. You could tell, even before they spoke, that something inside them was unsettled. There's an old story about a man who carried resentment like a second skin. He had been wronged in his youth, and he never let go of that wound. Over the years, people noticed his face changing, not from age, but from anger. His eyebrows seemed locked in a permanent frown. His smile grew rarer, his eyes sharper. It was as if his inner fire had started carving itself into his very features. And here's the truth, this isn't just a story. We've all seen it in real life. Maybe in someone we know, or even in ourselves during a difficult season. The emotions we feed, day after day, eventually write themselves onto our face. The face as a canvas of the mind. Buddhist teachings say, anger burns merit and destroys beauty. What that means is simple but profound. When we let anger, bitterness, and restlessness take over, we're not only harming our spirit, we are also shaping the way the world sees us. It's not punishment, it's natural law. Just like stress can weaken the immune system, or joy can boost our health, emotions leave physical marks. The body doesn't lie. Science backs this up too. Chronic anger and anxiety flood the body with stress hormones. Over time, that tension tightens muscles, especially in the face. Wrinkles deepen not from age alone, but from repeated expressions of frustration or worry. Even the eyes change. The softness fades, replaced by a hard, guarded look. So yes, the mind paints itself on the body. The more restless and angry the heart, the more tense and unkind the face appears. The silent message we send. Now, here's something worth reflecting on. What silent message does your face send before you say a single word? We often underestimate the power of presence. But think about it. How many times have you walked into a room and instantly sensed someone's mood just by looking at their face? A gentle expression puts us at ease. A tense, harsh one makes us defensive. In that sense, our face becomes like a billboard for our inner world. We can't fully hide it. And if we live with constant irritation, impatience, or bitterness, then over time, that's the story our face tells, even when we don't want it to. My personal observation. I remember a time when I was working in a high-stress job. Deadlines, office politics, endless pressure, it wore me down. One day, I caught my reflection in a store window, and I barely recognized myself. My brow was knotted, my eyes dull. I wasn't angry at that exact moment, but months of stress had left its mark. And then it hit me. This is what people see when they look at me. Not the me I think I'm presenting, but the reality my face has been shaped into. That realization was humbling. From then on, I began asking myself, what am I letting my face say about my life? Am I allowing my stress to become my identity? The trap of holding on. Anger, resentment, and restlessness often come from holding on too tightly, holding on to old wounds, to unmet expectations, to the illusion that life must go exactly as we want. But holding on comes at a cost. It doesn't just weigh down the heart, it etches itself into the body. Every time we replay that grudge, every time we rehearse that argument in our head, the body remembers. The face remembers. Have you ever noticed how, after a heated conversation, your jaw hurts or your forehead aches? That's not just in your head. That's the body telling you, this anger is costing us. A universal law. The Buddhist teaching is blunt: anger burns merit. In simple terms, the blessings, opportunities, and peace we might have enjoyed are consumed by the fire of rage. And not only that, it also burns our appearance. We spend billions of dollars every year on skincare, beauty products, anti-aging treatments. But rarely do we consider that one of the most powerful anti-aging practices is inner peace. Because anger and stress don't just make us feel older, they make us look older. Imagine if we invested half as much energy into calming our minds as we do into buying creams and serums. The results might be far more lasting. A question for you. So let me ask you this. If someone were to meet you for the first time today, before hearing your story, before knowing your struggles, what would your face tell them? Would it tell a story of tension, impatience, and resentment? Or would it tell a story of calm, kindness, and presence? The answer matters, not out of vanity, but because our face is often the first gift, or the first wound, we give to others. The way back to softness. The good news is, just as anger can harden the face, peace can soften it again. The lines of tension can ease. The eyes can regain their gentleness. How? By tending to the root, the mind. Meditation, prayer, forgiveness, these aren't just spiritual practices, they're medicine for the body. Each time we choose to let go of anger, we are literally relaxing the muscles of our face, even if we don't notice it right away. Each time we breathe deeply instead of reacting harshly, we are protecting both our spirit and our appearance. I've met people in their 70s and 80s whose faces were radiant, not because they had avoided hardship, but because they had learned to meet hardship with patience instead of bitterness. Their wrinkles weren't hardened lines of anger, but soft lines of laughter. That difference is striking. A practice to try. Here's something simple you can try. At the end of each day, stand before a mirror. Look into your own eyes, not to judge, not to criticize, but to ask, what story did my face tell today? And if you see tension, let it go with your breath. Imagine smoothing your brow from the inside, letting your jaw relax, letting your eyes soften. Smile gently, not as performance, but as kindness to yourself. Do this daily, and over time, you'll notice not just a change in your face, but in the way people respond to you. Closing reflection. The truth is, the face cannot lie. It will always reflect the state of the heart. If the heart is restless, angry, or bitter, the face becomes tense, harsh, and weary. But if the heart is calm, forgiving, and kind, the face becomes open, warm, and radiant. So the question is not, how do I look? The real question is, what energy am I living with, and how is it shaping the story my face tells the world? Because in the end, beauty isn't a matter of cosmetics. It's the natural radiance of a peaceful mind. And that's something no wrinkle, no age, no hardship can ever take away. Words and face together nurture the mind. Have you ever noticed how the way someone speaks seems to change the way they look? I'm not talking about makeup, or a new haircut, or even age. I mean something deeper. How a person who often speaks with kindness, with gentleness, with compassion, seems to carry a certain light in their face. It's subtle, but you can feel it. Their smile feels warmer, their presence feels brighter. And it's not because life has been easy for them. It's because their words have been shaping their spirit, and their spirit has been shaping their face. A story of gentle speech. There's a story told in the Buddhist tradition about a monk who, no matter who he met, would always greet them with kind words. His words were never loud or sharp. They were like water poured onto fire. Over the years, people began to notice something. His face seemed to glow. Not in some supernatural way, but in a way that made people feel calm and safe just being near him. It wasn't the result of luck, or skincare, or genetics. It was the natural expression of a heart that had been softened and brightened by compassionate speech. The teaching, speech and mind are interwoven. In Buddhism, there's a simple but powerful idea. Our words are not separate from our thoughts. The way we speak is an extension of the way we think, and both together leave an imprint, not only on the world around us, but on our own being. Speech creates karma. Every kind word we speak plants a seed of peace, both in others and in ourselves. Every harsh word plants a seed of tension, both in others and in ourselves. Over time, those seeds grow, shaping not just the relationships we have, but the very way we look and feel. So when we say that speech and mind together create appearance, it's not mystical, it's observable. The energy we release through words and thoughts eventually returns to us, and it shows up in our body, in our face, in the way people experience us. Think about it. Let me ask you this. When you think of someone in your life who constantly criticizes, complains, or gossips, what comes to mind about their face? Do they look radiant, open, easy to be around? Or do they look heavy, maybe even older than their years? Now think of someone who always speaks gently, who encourages, who comforts. Don't they seem lighter? Don't their faces carry a kind of ease that draws you in? That's not imagination. That's cause and effect. Science meets spirituality. Modern science supports this too. Studies show that speaking negatively, complaining, gossiping, criticizing, actually increases stress hormones in the body. Your muscles tighten, your blood pressure rises, your nervous system becomes unsettled. And because we often use our face to express what we are saying, those repeated expressions etch themselves into the skin. Frown lines, tense jaws, narrowed eyes. But when we speak positively, when we express gratitude, kindness, or encouragement, our body produces hormones like oxytocin, which relax muscles and soften tension. That softness doesn't just feel better. Over time, it literally shapes the face. So yes, your words aren't just carried by the air. They are carried by your body. My own realization. I'll share a personal moment. There was a time in my life when I got caught up in negativity. Stress at work made me quick to complain, quick to snap at small things. I didn't notice it at first, until one day someone close to me said, "You look tired all the time now." I thought it was just lack of sleep. But when I looked in the mirror, I saw it too. My face had lost some of its softness. My smile looked forced. It wasn't exhaustion. It was the weight of my own words coming back to me. That realization shook me. From then on, I made a small promise to myself. At least once a day, I would say something intentionally kind to someone. Not fake, not forced, but real. And slowly, I noticed the change. Not just in my relationships, but in myself. My face felt lighter, as if kindness had given it room to breathe again. The hidden power of words. We underestimate words. We think they disappear the moment they're spoken. But words are like stones thrown into water. The ripples reach further than we imagine. They ripple out into the lives of others, but they also ripple back into us. If we consistently speak harshly, those ripples return as harshness in our own heart, our own expression, our own presence. If we consistently speak with compassion, those ripples return as gentleness in our own heart, our own presence, and yes, even in our own face. That's why the teaching says, speech and mind together create appearance. They are not separate, they are partners in shaping who we become. Practical reflection. So here's something you can try. Pay attention to your words for just one day. Notice how often you complain, criticize, or gossip. Notice how you feel in your body when you do. Then, notice how you feel when you say something kind, uplifting, or encouraging. At the end of the day, look in the mirror. Ask yourself, what kind of words shaped my face today? This isn't about guilt, it's about awareness. Because once you see the connection, you can start choosing the kind of words that not only heal others but also heal you. The beauty that lasts. We live in a culture obsessed with appearance. But the most beautiful faces are not necessarily the youngest, or the most symmetrical, or the most polished. The most beautiful faces are the ones that have been softened by compassion, brightened by kindness, and lifted by truth. I've met people in their 70s and 80s whose faces radiated joy, not because they had avoided suffering, but because their words had always leaned toward love. The lines on their face were not marks of anger, but of laughter. Not scars of bitterness, but signatures of care. That is beauty that lasts. That is beauty you can't buy, but you can grow. Closing reflection. So let me leave you with this thought. Every word you speak is a brushstroke, painting not only the world around you, but also the portrait of yourself. Over time, that portrait becomes visible, not just in how others hear you, but in how they see you. If you want a face that shines with peace, then cultivate a mind and a voice that speak peace. If you want a presence that draws others in, then let your words become a source of comfort, not a source of harm. Because words don't just communicate. They create. They shape. They become. And in the end, your words and your face are always in conversation, together telling the story of your heart. Practicing mindful speech and a mindful smile. Have you ever noticed how a single smile can shift the energy of an entire room? How one gentle word of gratitude can change the course of someone's day, and maybe even your own? It sounds simple. Too simple, maybe. But sometimes the most transformative practices in life are the simplest ones we overlook. A morning story. Imagine this. You wake up tomorrow morning. Before checking your phone, before worrying about the long list of tasks waiting for you, you pause. You breathe. And you greet the day with a smile. Not a forced smile, not the kind you put on when you're trying to hide something, but a soft, mindful smile, a smile that says, I am alive. I have been given one more day. Then you walk into the kitchen. Maybe your partner is there, or your child, or a roommate. And instead of starting the day in silence or rushing through, you look them in the eye and simply say, thank you. Thank you for making coffee. Thank you for being here. Thank you for just sharing this morning with me. That tiny moment, that smile, that word, can completely change the tone of your day. Why this matters? In Buddhism, there is a teaching. Mindfulness is not just sitting on a cushion. It is woven into speech, into gestures, into how we show up for others every single day. Your words are not small. Your smile is not trivial. They are both forms of energy, and the way you use them determines whether you are spreading peace or spreading restlessness. When you bring mindfulness into your speech, when you anchor awareness in your smile, you are not just being polite, you are training your mind. You are shaping your spirit. The smile that heals. Let's pause here. Have you ever met someone who smiled at you in such a genuine way that you felt safe instantly? Maybe it was a stranger who held the door, or a nurse who reassured you during a difficult moment, or a loved one who simply said without words, it's okay. You're not alone. That is not an ordinary smile. That is a mindful smile. It comes from presence. And presence has power. A mindful smile is not about denying pain or pretending everything is fine. It's about acknowledging life fully, its struggles and its beauty, and still choosing to greet it with warmth. Words as daily practice. And then, there are words. Speech is one of the most powerful tools we have, and yet we often use it carelessly. We complain before we've even had breakfast. We criticize before the other person has even finished their sentence. But what if, instead, we practiced using words as a form of meditation? What if every thank you was not automatic, but conscious? What if every compliment carried awareness? It doesn't have to be complicated. A simple I appreciate you, spoken with sincerity, can be a complete practice in itself. In that moment, you are not only lifting the other person, you are also training your own mind to recognize goodness, to cultivate gratitude, to build connection. Science meets spirituality. Modern psychology agrees. Studies show that people who practice daily gratitude, through words, through journaling, even through small acknowledgements, report higher levels of happiness, lower stress, and stronger relationships. And when you smile, even if you don't fully feel like it, your brain begins to release chemicals like dopamine and serotonin, the same ones that regulate mood and calm the nervous system. So when Buddhist teachings encourage us to practice mindful smiling and mindful speech every day, it's not abstract spirituality. It's neuroscience. It's physiology. It's practical wisdom that modern science continues to confirm. A personal reflection. There was a period in my own life when mornings felt heavy. The alarm would go off, and my first thought was always about what was missing, what was wrong, what I dreaded. And I carried that heaviness into my speech, complaints about traffic, stress about work, frustration about small things. Then I came across a simple suggestion: smile to the morning. Just that. And I thought, this sounds too naive, too simple. But I tried it. At first, it felt awkward. But slowly, something shifted. My mornings didn't change, but I changed. I noticed my tone with others became softer. I noticed arguments decreased. I noticed that by beginning the day with a smile and a word of thanks, I was planting seeds of peace instead of seeds of irritation. It wasn't a miracle. It was practice. And practice, as always, reshapes us. An invitation to you. So let me invite you, tomorrow morning, before you check your messages or rush into the day, pause. Smile, just for yourself. Let it be a gift to your own heart. Then, find one person, anyone, and speak a word of gratitude. Not elaborate, not dramatic, just simple and real. Notice how that changes your inner weather. Notice how it changes the way others respond. And then ask yourself, what would my life feel like if I did this not once, but every day? Beyond politeness. Because here's the truth, this isn't about manners. It's not about being polite for the sake of appearances. It's about training the mind to stay awake in the smallest moments. Mindfulness is not proven by how long you can sit in meditation. It's revealed in whether you can remember to smile when you wake up, whether you can choose words that heal instead of words that harm, whether you can meet the people around you with presence instead of absence. This is the real practice. And it happens not in monasteries, but in kitchens, in offices, in car rides, in conversations. The larger picture. Think about it. If each of us practiced one mindful smile a day, one mindful word of gratitude a day, imagine the ripple effect. Families would soften. Workplaces would feel less tense. Communities would feel more humane. It may sound small, but every wave begins with a single drop. And you have that drop every morning, every time you open your mouth, every time your lips curve into a smile. Closing thought. So let me leave you with this reflection. Your smile and your words are not just for others. They are for you. Every mindful smile nourishes your own heart. Every mindful word clears the fog in your own mind. And as they grow, they begin to shape your face, your presence, your destiny. So tomorrow, just try. Smile to the morning. Say thank you to someone close to you. Do it not as a duty, but as a meditation. Because in the end, life is not measured by how much we accomplish, but by how deeply we are present. And nothing brings us into presence faster than a smile and a word spoken with love. Closing message and teaser for next video. Have you ever heard the saying, beauty comes from within? Most of us nod, we've heard it 100 times, but how often do we pause and ask ourselves, what does that really mean? Tonight, as we bring our conversation to a close, I want to leave you with a simple but powerful reflection. White right pointing backhand index if you want to change your face, begin with your heart. White right pointing backhand index if you want to carry peaceful energy, begin with your words. Beyond makeup and mirrors. Think about it. Our culture spends billions every year on beauty products, cosmetic procedures, and quick fixes promising transformation. And yet, none of them can erase the heaviness of bitterness. None of them can mask the sharpness of harsh words that echo in someone's memory. Makeup can brighten the surface, but it cannot illuminate the soul. Surgery can shape features, but it cannot soften anger. The real transformation, one that people truly feel when they're around you, always begins from the inside. The heart shapes the face. I've seen this in real life. Maybe you have too. Have you ever met someone who wasn't conventionally attractive by magazine standards, but somehow, the moment they entered the room, you couldn't stop looking at them? Their face seemed to shine. Their presence felt magnetic. That radiance wasn't born from perfect cheekbones. It was born from kindness, from sincerity, from the way their hearts softened their expression. Over time, our repeated emotions carve themselves into our features. Compassion etches lines of gentleness. Gratitude deepens the warmth in our smile. On the other hand, resentment can harden the jaw, jealousy can narrow the eyes, anger can weigh down the brow. So if we really want to change our face, we don't start with the mirror. We start with the heart. Words as energy. And then there's speech. Words are vibrations, energy carried through sound. They don't just leave our mouths and disappear. They land, they linger, they live in the hearts of others. A harsh word spoken in anger can echo for years. A gentle word of encouragement can live in someone's memory forever, carrying them through dark nights. When we begin with words rooted in mindfulness, words that are thoughtful, words that are compassionate, we aren't just making small talk. We are shaping energy. We are cultivating an atmosphere. We are building a kind of peace that doesn't just live inside us, but radiates outward into the world. So, if we want to live in a more peaceful home, a calmer workplace, a gentler community, it begins with the words we choose every single day. A question for you. So I want to ask you, when someone thinks of you, what energy do you want them to feel? Do you want to be remembered for your sharp criticisms, or for your calming presence? Do you want your face to carry the weight of unspoken resentment, or the lightness of compassion? These are not questions of vanity. These are questions of legacy, a story to reflect on. I once met an elderly woman at a retreat. Her face was deeply wrinkled, her body frail. But the moment she smiled, the entire room lit up. It was as if she carried decades of kindness in her eyes. People gravitated toward her, not because she looked young, but because she looked alive. I asked her, "What's your secret?" She laughed softly and said, "Every day, I tried my best not to let anger stay too long. And I practiced saying thank you, even for small things." Her secret wasn't found in a cream or a clinic. It was found in her heart and in her words, bringing it back to you. So, my friend, if you've been searching for change, if you've been waiting for some shift in how you feel, in how you appear to the world, maybe the starting point is closer than you think. Begin with the heart. Practice compassion until it becomes your default expression. Begin with words. Practice gratitude until it becomes your natural language. Slowly, almost without noticing, your presence will change. Your face will soften. Your energy will become lighter. People will sense it before you even speak. This is how true beauty grows. This is how peaceful energy spreads. The teaser, what comes next? And this leads us to something I'm very excited to explore in the next video. Because if the heart shapes the face, and words shape energy, then what about the eyes? They say the eyes are the window to the soul. But is that just poetry? Or is there something deeper? Can our eyes truly reveal the state of our mind, the depth of our spirit, the truth of our being? That's exactly what we'll dive into next time. So, stay with me. Because once we understand the language of the eyes, we begin to see not only others more clearly, but also ourselves. Closing thought. Let me leave you with this. Transformation is not about changing who you are. It's about returning to who you truly are, before the anger, before the stress, before the fear. And the path back begins here, with the heart, and with the words you choose to release into the world. So tonight, as you close this video, maybe whisper a quiet thank you to someone in your life, or even just yourself. Notice how that small act shifts your energy. Notice how your face softens. Notice how peace begins, right there. And then, I'll see you soon, as we open the window of the soul, and discover what the eyes have to teach us.